Well, good morning. The Senate Republicans will be taking up the Jobs, Commerce, and Energy bill today. This will put us over halfway when we pass this bill. And as we look to see what the House is doing and what the governor's been talking about, we're hoping that they get more serious about their bills with $12 billion of tax increases on just about everything. And with a tax incident study coming out from the Department of Revenue that talked about that it was really addressing taxes on the middle class and bottom, I think we need to take another look. And so we're hoping yet that they will adjust where they're at. Our bill, as we combine all of the 10 budget bills together, will be about a 5% increase, which the numbers, as we get clearer and clearer, look like it's about 2.2 billion, something like that. And so, but for today and right now, we'll start with Senator Eric Pratt as he talks about jobs.
Thanks, Senator Zelka. Hi, my name is Eric Pratt. I represent Senate District 55, which is Scott County, and I'm chair of the Jobs and Economic Growth Committee. I think what you'll see in our bill today really falls along the lines of something we've been talking about all session, and that is we want every Minnesotan to be able to participate in this economy. Our bill helps remove barriers to employment. It invests in the jobs of today, but also in the jobs for tomorrow. And it equalizes the playing field between employers and employees. A couple of pieces that we do that are specifically as we continue the Pathways to Prosperity grants. And we've been working with the House business and labor leaders and coming up with a wage theft proposal. We just simply have a belief that if you earn a wage, you should be paid a wage. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Osmick.
Well, thank you, Senator Pratt. I'm David Osmick. I represent District 33B, 33 over in Western Hennepin County in Chanhassen. I'm the chair of the Energy and Utilities Committee here in the Senate. The energy portions of this bill are very important. Although many people don't think about electricity that comes out of their lights or pipelines, this has a very big impact on your everyday lives. Part of the bill deals with what I call a three-legged stool. One is, it involves the biomass, Benson biomass money to acknowledge the fact that the legislature changed the rules of the game. There's going to be money for businesses who were impacted by our legislative change in the last biennium. Also, there's a full funding grant money for the Prairie Island Net Zero project. And there's also, for the ratepayer, a reduction in the cap on or putting into place a cap on the casks that we tax ourselves at Prairie Island and at Monticello. Also, there's some very important provisions on community solar gardens. It does not eliminate the program in any way. What it does do is bring some market forces involved with the energy and the amount of energy we're spending or paying for off of these arrays. Right now, to put it in context, community solar garden energy is between $120 and $150 per megawatt hour, compared to utility grade solar, which is about $40 or $50 a meg, which compares to fossil fuels and wind, which are down about $7 a megawatt hour. So you can tell there's a problem here, and it's because of the way we wrote the community solar garden standards in 2013. What we do is we put in a competitive bidding process or an RFP process, as well as cap how much goes onto the system so that ratepayers are not continuously soaked for very expensive energy. It allows the solar program to continue, but it puts in more market forces and puts in consumer protections also. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator Dames. He worked the commerce section of the bill.
Well, thank you, Senator Osmick, and good morning, folks. I'm Senator Gary Dames. I represent Senate District 16. I also chair the Commerce and Consumer Protection Committee. Some of the highlights we'll have in our bill today when we present that, starting about 3 years ago, we decided that we're really going to put an emphasis on the enforcement for the rules and things like that. And we wanted to make sure that we were chasing fraud and making sure that the Department of Commerce had the opportunity and the wherewithal to deal with fraud. So again, this year we're going to be beefing up. This year we're going to be putting more money in for the healthcare fraud enforcement. One of the areas that we're going to be focusing on. We'll also be focusing on moving some of the funding from the general fund over to a special revenue account For the Department of Commerce, currently when we have the fees and stuff coming in from financial institutions and things like that, that goes into the general fund. We'll be moving those over to a special account, special revenue account, and so then the fees and stuff will go into that, and the cost and the expenditures for these financial institutions and stuff for the overseeing of that will then come out of that fund. But like I say, the strongest part of the bill will certainly be the enforcement for healthcare fraud, and that'll be kind of along the same theme we've been at. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Majority Leader Senator Gazelka, and I'm sure he'll have some final comments and questions.
Any questions for the first three bills first, or first three parts of the bill?
Senator Osmond?
Yes, sir.
I know the House budget has quite a bit of money for their Solar on School project grant program. You guys, sounds like you have, I think, $2 million. Can you just talk about, well, do you support that program? If so, how come you think it's good use of government money?
Well, we did have that money in the last budget bill that was vetoed by Governor Dayton, and we had it at about the same level. The House has a little bit different priorities. They want to spend a lot of money, and keep in mind that government agencies, schools, and local jurisdictions can actually participate in the Community Solar Garden program also. So we felt that from a first-time standpoint, let's put in a bit of money and see where it goes. And also I have to deal with then how much money we have in the Renewable Development Fund to begin with, especially when we're doing the spending. So I think this is a beginning, and I think we should take a quiet or quick or short first step before we go 20 million, which is the direction, 10 times more money than I have. So that's my answer. That's the answer on it.
If we could just ask you about the transportation bill, if the House is taking that up, and your thoughts about the gas tax that is going to be sticking to in terms of that 20-cent figure.
Well, again, the tax incident study even confirmed that is one of a number of taxes that would hurt the middle class and lower income. We're not going to do a gas tax. I've made it very clear that that's not a direction we're going to go. The Senate Republicans and House Republicans 2 years ago passed new money going into roads and bridges. It was half the sales tax on auto parts, and we did more bonding for roads and bridges. And that is one area that I've said I'm open to, that we could consider bonding money for roads and bridges. But we have new money going into roads and bridges. It's $530 million new money. And overall, we have $8 billion to spend on transportation. And so that's an area that we're just not going to do. You won't see it in our transportation bill.
Can you address something the governor said this morning in regards to the provision trying to strike down Minneapolis and St. Paul's minimum wage in this jobs bill? He said that was essentially a political show to try to do that. Can you address that?
Sure. You know, the uniform labor standards in the jobs bill is very important when we start talking about the wage theft provision in my bill, but also many of the provisions that are in the House bill related to safe and sick time or paid family and medical leave. We have 850 some odd cities in the state that could conceivably pass some version of their own labor laws and make it almost impossible for us to do commerce intrastate. So this is a way for us to roll those back, get back to a standard that we thought we had back in 2017 when we were working with Governor Dayton, and really make sure that we're working off of one set of rules. What we hear a lot is the state is a floor, but it really isn't. The state should be the standard. And what I've seen from Minneapolis and being able to impose their labor standards on someone who works in their city as little as 2 hours in a week is really an attempt to try to influence statewide policy, and that's for us to do.
What about the argument about local control? The Republicans always have been staunch supporters of local control. This is a preemption of local control.
You know, I served on a school board for 12 years, and Senator Osmick was on a city council, and Senator Dames was a county commissioner. I mean, we all believe in local control. The question is what are the bounds of those local controls? I have to work through the state in order to get the 169 bridge restriped to handle flooding. Is that preemption and taking away from local control? The idea is that we're not trying to take away local control from anybody. I don't think they should have had that control, and I think historically they haven't had that control. We're just trying to set it back to where we think that that authority has historically rested and should rest.
Under Ms. Delta, you at one point told us that there would be hearings on those two gun bills. Yet they passed as freestanding bills. Is that still your stance on that?
Yeah, so about a month ago, as the House was, we were having discussions about some of the more current gun laws that people were interested in. I said to the House, and said it publicly, if you will take these bills up separately and give them an up or down vote, then we will do hearings this year on those gun bills as well as other bills. And our Judiciary Committee give it an open hearing. They chose not to. So I don't want to waste more time on that. It's not going to be in our judiciary bills. We have virtually no policy in our judiciary bills, and we're just not going to do it. The bills are dead. But I gave them an opportunity for the Senate to respond and have hearings, and they chose not to go that route. And certainly it's a different body, and they have their the reasons why. But as a result, we're not doing anything on those this year.
Mr. Leader, the Speaker said that 100% chance of these measures being in their bill, and therefore they're part of budget negotiations. He says he's going to fight for them right till the end.
Well, I respect that. We'll be on the other side of that. We're not going to accept those new bills without open hearings, and frankly, our majority doesn't want those bills. Universal background checks is really just a small percentage of actual gun sales. It would be if I wanted to sell a gun to or give a gun to my son or daughter, if I wanted a friend to come deer hunting with me and loaned them a gun. It's those kind of things that we don't want background checks. But regardless, I was open to having those hearings this year, as well as stand your ground and some other gun issues on the other side of that issue. But I don't want to waste the time if they're not going to give it an open hearing in the House.
Is there any compromise to be had in conference on that issue, or is it totally a non-starter?
It's a non-starter for the Senate.
Senator, the Court of Appeals reportedly just ruled that the state agency didn't have the authority to rename Lake Calhoun last year. The authority would rest in the legislature. Do you have any response to that? Is the legislature going to act?
Well, I think that I think it's a good place. I want the legislative bodies to weigh in on whether we're going to change names of Fort Snelling or whether we're going to change the name of lakes. Frankly, it should be the legislative bodies weigh in and make that decision, whether they're going to replace one name with another, or whether they're going to have two names side by side or not change them at all. I really believe that should have been a legislative decision from the very beginning.
What do you think the name should be?
Well, I like Lake Calhoun, but I'm certainly willing to respect a conversation in the legislative bodies about whether it needs to be two names or not.
You just brought up Fort Snelling. They haven't actually changed the name, but have changed the signs to say Fort Snelling at Pedote. Talk about that and where you see that controversy.
Well, I'm glad you have the pronunciation right now.
I had it right last time. I just wasn't.
It needs to rest in the legislative bodies, and we're gonna ask for that, whether it's Historical Society or anybody else, the DNR. We want that to be discussions that are in the legislative bodies about how we want to address those.
Any movement on Regions Joint Convention?
We're still holding out for the idea that we'll have joint conventions. We think that was what was meant to be, that there's a good group of diverse candidates that the committee has put forward. That's the direction I think we should go, but we have to wait and see if the House will acquiesce to that.
Are you even talking dates? Are you to that level?
We're at least having conversations
Dates.
about getting it done without kicking it to the governor, which I think is really a cop-out.
Do you think you're going to be able to get everything done?
Of course. Really, I have hope for sure. I mean, yes, we're far apart, but the fact that the governor and the speaker and myself have regular conversations and Respect each other means we can push each other pretty hard without getting personal, and that's very, very important in divided government. So I've been through it a few times, and this doesn't seem harder. This doesn't seem much harder than any of the other ones. We have a surplus of $1 billion. No reason we can't get what we have done within that. I'm just asking that the governor and the Democrat-controlled House lower their expectations. They have huge ideas that cost a lot of money that a lot of people don't want when they think about the price tag to them. But I do think we'll get done, and I think we'll get done on time.
And going back to the gas tax, any room for compromise, a lesser figure?
No. That is one. We have a bill that lowers the gas tax 20 cents. If we compromise between the 20 cents up and the 20 cents down, we're at a perfect spot. No gas tax increase.
Mr. Leader, is there anything for Enbridge in this bill, or does anyone anticipate any amendments on the floor regarding the Commerce Department taxes?
Thank you for asking the question. Yes, in the energy components, we do have a prohibition that the Department of Commerce needs to cease and desist by saying they cannot spend money on continued appeals. Just to put this in context, what the Department of Commerce continues to appeal from the Dayton administration to the Walz administration was in their comments when the PUC made their 5-0 decision. So what we're doing is they're saying, well, let's appeal. You saw it back in June. You voted on it unanimously, but oh, wait, let's appeal this one more time. They're wasting money. They're wasting time. They're wasting the taxpayers' dollars.
Speaker, Majority Leader Gazelka, I'm sorry to belabor the point, but regarding Fort Snelling and Pedote, you said it needs to rest in legislative bodies. Does the Historical Society and the DNR and every state body need the legislature's permission to change a sign?
I think if you're changing well-known names, whether it's lakes or buildings or things like Fort Snelling that have a lot of important historical impressions for people of Minnesota, to just arbitrarily change it without a conversation, I think is a big mistake. It's my understanding that it was just one person that changed that name, and I don't think that's how we do things in Minnesota. All right, well, thank you. Watch the floor.